Hello and welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. You are tuning into the CFO show brought to you by Wheel, Australia's leading spend management solution. I'm going to start that again. I said that and then, or maybe I'll leave it. Yeah, let's leave it. I was saying to Lance before, what the approach that we're taking with the CFO show is kind of, I think, what a lot of tech businesses take, that, if they're not embarrassed by the first product that they took to market, then they ship too late.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tune into these first episodes and just be like cringing, but hopefully it gives you guys a laugh. So I am joined by Lance Rubin. He is very much one of the world leading experts in financial modeling. So very thrilled to have you here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Adriana. It's great to be here. And yeah, faux pas are a great way to learn from your mistakes, right? So let's get into it.
Awesome. So, some quick fire questions just to warm you up before jumping into the juicy things.
Yeah.
I started this with Tyler, which was me guessing what coffee you are before you telling us what your favorite coffee is. I'm actually going to guess that you're a long black.
Oh, yeah. It's funny you say that because I used to be,
Oof.
and now I'm a flat white.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did used to be a long black person for sure.
Yeah, I can see that. Straight to the point. Yeah. Pretty strong. Yeah. Very focused. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
one that I think might be tough for you, but your favorite Excel shortcut.
So I think it's a bit harsh for me. I've got so many to say my favorite. So it's kind of like, choose your favorite kid. So I'm going to do three.
Yeah.
And the reason I choose them is because I use them a lot. And therefore I'd say, well, they're my favorite because I just tend to kind of find myself always using it. Control Shift Plus if I want to add in a row, or Control Minus if I want to delete a row or delete a
Hmm.
column. And so it just really helps when because you're always adding rows, deleting columns, adding columns. So Control Shift Plus and Control Minus. And the third one is Alt Equals, which is sum. So instead of going
Is
equals
it?
sum, yes. Yeah, I've
Oh,
got
that
you.
is much
Alt
better than
equals. Alt equals
some.
just picks up the sum straight away,
Ah,
and you go from there. So hopefully that's a tip that helps everyone. I just find myself using those three a lot. I mean, there's, control page up, page down in terms of navigation,
yeah.
control up, control down, where you want to get to the top or the bottom. I mean, I could go on forever just rattling off shortcuts. And
I
it's not
mean,
about
Command
learning
Z
them.
is my
Yeah,
favorite.
undo for sure. This copy paste, Control C, Control V, which is the older one, but Alt HVS, which is Control Paste Special. You want to paste
Mm.
values, or if you want to paste
Mm.
formats. There's maybe we should just do a whole session on shortcut keys,
Yeah, I was like,
Adriana, which I'm happy to do, because I think there's
I'd
so
love
much
to do
stuff
that.
that we could we
Absolutely.
could we could automate. But yeah,
One thing that took me ages, but I was pretty happy that I learnt were like the data arrays.
yeah,
Yeah, that was like 2 years ago.
dynamic
But I don't think
arrays,
that's like a shortcut. I don't know.
dynamic arrays. You mean?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
obviously I didn't learn it too well.
Yeah, no, dynamic arrays is a
Caught
whole new
out,
formula
caught out.
language. That's okay. You tried.
It's true. I did try. Well, I guess we've already jumped a little bit into it, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about your area of expertise and what the audience can, expect to learn about from you, or ask you
Sure.
questions as well.
Yeah, look, I started my career in banking, financial services, PwC. So I guess I was always into numbers and spreadsheets. And I guess that's probably where I started, probably like most typical accountants. But then when I got into investment banking and building financial models for decision making, for capital raising, for corporate finance, that's when I really sort of blossomed. And I thought, this is my calling. So I'd say my primary expertise is financial modeling, and of course, financial modeling inside our favorite tool, Excel. But I've gone beyond that. I've gone into Power BI, I've gone into data analytics, I've gone into automation, because the technology tools out there is just amazing within the Microsoft stack. And so I guess I'd call myself today not just a financial modeler, but a finance tech specialist. So, sort of a finance in terms of finance and accounting tech specialist, because we're playing with Power Apps, we're playing with ChatGPT, we're playing with Microsoft Fabric, we're playing with, which is the whole data platform within Power BI. It just doesn't end. So for me, it's sort of, I didn't want to be boxed in to just be doing Excel and just be doing financial models. Although, obviously I still enjoy it, but it's sort of looking at all of these other technologies that are just flying at us, and literally, it's just every day there's something new. So for me, it's about trying to understand and unpick that and communicate that to people simply, so they can make relevant and informed and purposeful decisions. So for me, if it doesn't help me make a good decision, I'm not interested. It could be the most whiz-bang sort of piece of software that can tell, what's the temperature in my shoes. I don't really care. It's got to be something that's, really going to help me make better decisions, and then I'll look into it.
I guess you touched on two parts there, which are probably worth diving into further. I mean, firstly, you've got the actual financial modeling part, and then the second part is, the communication of that simply, which I think often kind of we rush over. And also, what does it mean? What decisions can you make off the back of this information?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what type of customers or clients do you primarily work with?
I've always struggled with this question because people always say, "Oh, you've got to choose your niche, you've got to choose your industry. You're small or you're large or you government." The reality is we're all, and the reason that we're all is because we've worked across all different industries, from SaaS businesses to manufacturing to service-based businesses to we work with accounting firms, we work with virtual CFO firms. Ultimately, all of those companies are struggling to make a decision. So I guess our clients are those that have lots of data, manual spreadsheets, manual processes, and they're really struggling to sort of get value from their data, or they're struggling to get, really useful outputs from the team. So we do training, and so I guess, the engagements that we do can run anywhere from building models, and when we hand that over to the team to run, to just doing training on maybe shortcut keys or dynamic arrays or whatever it is, to building really big systems, with data warehouses, with Power BI, with doing like really large computational calculations, really, that you just can't do in Excel because it'll blow up Excel. So we sort of do, because we cover that full spectrum of data technologies and tools, means that we can just service pretty much any client. Now that's hard because it's like, well, then if you don't have a target market, you have no market, right? It's like, you've got to choose one. But I think for me, it's about decision making. It's about decision making and enabling better decision making. And that's why we go to finance and accounting. One, because I'm an accountant in terms of my qualification, but also that's where most of the most important decisions are being made, is in the accounting and finance teams. So we tend to sort of focus in that area primarily. I guess if we'd say where's our sweet spot, it's with accounting and finance in terms of enabling them to make those decisions, agnostic of the size of the business.
Okay. Well, maybe if we can give a little more color around those clients, what are sort of the three areas perhaps that they're finding the most challenging at the moment?
I'd say the first one is just manual processes. I think, for everyone, accountants are always so busy, and there's this regular pattern, regular rhythm around weekly, daily, monthly, annually, annual. So it's very much jumping from one process to the next, and so I think that they don't have time to step up and look and sort of see ways of improving that. So the first thing is just the manual nature of what they do, is probably the biggest challenge, because if they don't have the time, then they can't even look at anything else, to embrace modeling, to embrace analytics. So the first challenge we always see is they're a slave to the spreadsheet rather than using the spreadsheet as a tool. It sort of shackled them down. The second one is really just trying to work with lots of data and work with information that is just, yes, it might be automated, but it's just sometimes it's just very clunky, something that's built by someone else. It's very complex. And so we untangle complexity and rebuild, or we build other tools. We're currently looking at an 86 megabyte Excel spreadsheet that was built by someone, and it takes half an hour to refresh.
Mm.
So yes, and that's somewhat automated, but it's just so big, and because it's so big,
Yeah.
it takes so long.
Absolutely.
And then I guess the last one is just helping people just get familiar with what's out there, and upskilling. It's an area that I find many, us included. I mean, I'm lucky that I've got my own business. I've got staff that do work for me, so I get to play with all these tools. I've got the time. It's sort of part of
Yeah.
what we do, but it's something that's I find really challenging for others who don't have necessarily that time. So one of the challenges is education and learning, which is why
Mm.
I've done lots of workshops and training through CAANZ and ACCA
Mm.
and CCH, which I was on yesterday, talking about cash flow modeling at year end for accountants. There's lots of opportunity to learn these things. It's just finding the time.
So my summary would be the training and the ability to play with whatever the sort of the tools that are coming out, optimizing some of the models that you have sort of been using, and making them, I guess, more user friendly, if for lack of a
Absolutely.
better phrase.
Yeah.
And then the final one is almost, optimizing or removing manual tasks to give you that space to be able to sort of start looking at your function more strategically rather than, kind of like a workhorse. It has to get through all of these manual tasks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huge.
Yeah, 100%. The finance team are always busy. They just are. I know when
Yeah.
I was in the finance team at National Australia Bank, we just had this constant churn. So we did a whole lot of outsourcing to give our work
Mm,
to India, but the work didn't suddenly dry up. It's only there was more work that came, and we had to then oversee that. So, outsourcing can help, but it's not necessarily
mm.
always the best answer in terms
Mm.
of actually embracing technology and automation.
Great. Well, I'm very eager to jump into a few of those areas over the coming months. So for those tuning in, Lance is one of our domain experts, and will be joining us to provide some snackable content. Maybe the next one will be Excel shortcuts. Maybe that'll be a worksheet or a template that we can all have a look at as well. Um, and just to round out this session, something that is one of my favorite things to hear because it makes me feel better about myself. What's one of the biggest mistakes or the biggest moments you're like, oh, can't believe that happened? Can be when
So
you started, it can be recent. You probably want it to be
yeah,
able to
it
be
it, it
publicly
goes it
facing.
goes quite a way back. Sorry to cut you off towards the end. But yeah, it's when I started. One of my first times I was in front of an audience. I was at an Excel training camp. I was on stage, and I was showing how to build this model in front of everyone. Right, it's the first time I've done stuff in front of people. And I think that's probably which sends shivers down most people's spines. Someone
Live
watching me
demo
in
is always the
Excel.
worst.
Live demos are always the worst, and I kind of felt like if I didn't crack that barrier, or didn't crack that egg, that I'd never actually develop as a trainer, as a
Mm,
speaker, and so I had to do it. So I practiced this model build, which I was going to do in front of the screen, in front
no.
of everyone. No mouse, all shortcut keys, and just bang it out, and bang it out in sort of 30 seconds in terms of what I was doing and what I was building, and building a three-way model like really, really quickly, and using some adding technology. So I practiced it so much, but on the day I made a formula error like on the screen, and the balance sheet
Mm,
didn't work, and there was some mistake, and I'm like, oh my God, like how can I get this wrong? I've practiced so
oh,
much. And um, Joseph Lau, who's actually one of the world champions in Model Off, which is now the Financial Modeling
sorry,
World
it's
Cup.
what? In model
Joseph
off.
Lau, Joseph Lau is one of the leading world champions in Excel financial modeling. There's actually
I
Financial
didn't
Modeling World
know that
Cup.
this
Yeah, there's a sport.
World
It's
Cup
now
exists.
it's now an esport. So there's an esport of
This is
Excel.
incredible. Do you
No
compete?
kidding. No, I did back in the day, but I'm just so busy with so many other things. But there's other people that are just absolute weapons when it comes to the stuff. And Joseph was on the front. He was in the front row, and he said, "Hey, Lance, your mistake is here." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Joseph." And I went in and I fixed it, and it all balanced. So it was sort of. But I think it was the
Mm.
first time I'd been in front of everyone. Also, the first time people had seen how fast you can be with shortcut keys.
Mhm.
And I often have to slow myself down when I'm training because I do this like almost so naturally. So
Mm.
yeah, it wasn't a glory moment by any stretch,
Oh,
but at least it sort of got me out of my shell and being able to feel more comfortable making mistakes in front of people because it's going to happen, but also more comfortable with doing live demos in Excel.
yeah. Absolutely. I think that's great. I mean, you're obviously very comfortable and confident speaking to big groups of people now, but I imagine that maybe starting out was a little bit more timid.
Yeah,
So that's great. And
yeah.
my heart broke a little bit for you, just imagining to see
Thank
that
you,
error come up.
thank you. Yeah,
Uh, Amazing. Well, that brings us to the end of our little session this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time. I
pleasure.
hope to see you in the model off the World Cup in future years, and I can say I know that guy. I'm sure they'll play it
Yeah.
in the pub soon. Like I know that this is
Look,
probably on the
it's no
rise.
longer called Model Off. It's called the Financial Modeling World Cup,
Ah,
FMWC. But yeah, it's on esports. They've had a massive following. It's quite amazing. I mean, these are trained athletes. Like I'm running a business, so it's kind of like I can talk about it, but that's what
mm.
a lot of these guys do. They're absolute machines, and it's impressive to watch and
I
the
actually think I
speed at
now
which
want to
they
go and
play.
YouTube this.
Yeah, go have
This
a
is
look.
incredible.
You'll go have a look. It's pretty amazing what they do.
Wow.
Excellent. Well, looking
Hmm.
forward to it. I'm looking forward to sharing thoughts and shortcut keys and many other things.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Go over flat white, kick your feet up, and we will speak soon. See you later, everyone.
See ya. Cheers.